Hello and welcome everyone to the main event. My name is Meeta and I'm really pleased to welcome back Tosh Paul-Patir, our resident employment lawyer. Hi, Tosh.
Hi, Meeta. Afternoon, everybody. Thanks for asking me back again.
It's good to have you back. And just to introduce you as our resident employment lawyer is really underselling you because you've got not only a wealth of employment law knowledge, but what really sets you apart is your commerciality and how people can apply that in their organizations.
I appreciate that, Meeta. That goes both ways, and we've been doing these things for quite a while. And the idea is, look, we're not the gurus, but we've got a good idea of the pains, frustrations, people that have gone through, business owners through COVID, beyond COVID, day-to-day people problem. This goes on, right? So this is another string to the bow of us saying, look, this is what we've kind of experienced. Maybe you can learn from this experience, right?
Absolutely. It seems that you and I always seem to come together in the face of adversity. Where peacetime just isn't exciting times for us. But
no, give me a struggle. Give me a struggle.
Yeah, well, as you said, we started this webinar series at the start of the pandemic. We've probably had about a year of peacetime, albeit quite tumultuous. And now we've got a recession coming. And when you and I were talking about how to encompass all the challenges and therefore bring some solutions to our business community, you jokingly said, winter is coming, because it's like a foreboding, isn't it, of what's around the corner.
I'm also a massive Game of Thrones fan, so I
Me
did
too.
make it my own.
So we got it. The audience might not all get it, but we got it. And I think the point of today's session is that, or at least the angle that I was coming from, is that, we, being a talent consultancy, being at the rock face of the economy, helping our clients find great talent, knowing that there's such a massive skill shortage, the hunt and the race, if you like, it has been a competition for businesses to readdress the balance and hire like crazy. And skills are in a massively in short supply. And I'm really thinking about businesses who've done all this work, spent all this money and time to get the right quality of people into their organization.
Yes.
They could lose these people for a number of reasons. One, employees can become nervous and unsettled and walk. And some of that will be in the employees' minds, and some of it will be from the employers' behaviors and the way they're handling the uncertainty. Other employers are going to have to think about who to get rid of and who to restructure their organization with. So I just thought, if we can just impart a little bit of what we are picking up from the world at the moment, what businesses are talking about, what advice is out there, what we've crystallized as a kind of top tips guide. And for the next sort of 30 to 40 minutes, we can bring that to our audience.
You know what I really see, Meeta, a lot of happening with our clients and certainly just generally in conversations I'm having with business owners and so forth, is overwhelm. Yeah. There's just so many different things out there to deal with, and I wanted to talk a little bit about focus as part of our discussion today. But it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more we talk about it, I'm not suggesting don't talk about it, but I'm saying the more the recession, hard times are coming. It's not going to do you any service. Let's get on with it. Let's do something about it. Let's have a plan. And that doesn't mean looking at the massive things. What are the little things we need to do on a day-to-day basis to start to achieve those massive things? You can't eat the whole elephant. It's one bite at a time.
Yeah. Nibble at its toes. That's what they say. Nibble at its toes.
Exactly. I'm guilty of it. I'll do maybe 10, 20 things, right? And guess what? I'll move 1 millimeter in every direction. Where if I just focus it on 2 or 3 things that really make the most impact on my business, just 2 or 3, you can all those millimeters add up to that one thing in the one direction, right?
Yeah,
You're more
likely that influences other areas as well. So that's what we're going to be doing today. As always, we like to be interactive. The biggest benefit to anyone who gives up their time and chooses to attend one of our webinars is that you can get your questions answered or your thoughts responded to straight away in this forum.
And it's the worst thing to just sit there listening or not listening. You maybe having your sandwich and not engage. You sometimes we all do it, right? You're sitting there in the background. Oh, that's an interesting point. But actually, you've come here for a reason. And if you have a pressing question or situation, grill us. If there's something we can do to help, we're going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So without further ado, let's get into the nitty-gritty. So in honor, getting overexcited, I'm going to slow down. In alignment with your point about 2 or 3 things. The areas that we've said we'll cover today are all around essentially organizations. Anyone who deals with people is responsible for hiring people, is responsible for retaining people, is responsible for driving the organization forward successfully. These are going to be important notes for you to take away. So really it's about understanding what's going on in the minds of your people, because I know every business is facing. I'll tell you what's interesting actually, Tosh, just to put it into perspective. If you listen to the news, it's absolute doom and gloom. We've already had the autumn statement. We haven't done an analysis on it yet, but that is going to make people unsettled. But actually, if you're at the office and everyone's getting on with it, to a certain extent, it is business as usual. There are small adjustments, and people don't necessarily feel the uncertainty that they're feeling, that they're hearing and reading on the news. And likewise, you go out there and you talk to businesses and you talk to other members of the business community, and there's no problem at all. So it's working out what's happening in your team with your people, what they're bringing to work, what their thoughts are, how they might react to that. Will that disengage them? Will it unsettle them? Will they be off their game? And how are you as an employer going to make sure that they have all the information and tools to keep on track? And if anything, we've got to do more to stay on track at the moment. So
you need to know what your USP is. What's your unique selling point? And it's your people. And I don't mean that as some sort of heady kind of heading from a textbook. What is our unique selling point? Yes, I do employment law. Yes, maybe the way I do it is slightly different, perhaps, right? But maybe there are others that do it. Ultimately, the only unique thing that's there are your people. So if they're the right people, or you train them in the right way, or they're delivering in the right way, and they're aligned with you, I mean, they're the ones that are going to get you through whatever hump you're facing in the business, if you are. And if you're not facing a hump, they're the ones that are going to help you grow, and really like that trajectory is going to then fly. So either way, we come back to the same source of growth or for your business, whatever the scenario is, whatever the environment is. Your strategies for your people have to be the ones that you really focus on, because they're the ones that are going to get you through it. Unless you're a one-man band, it's just not. There's no other way. You get your people right and in the right direction.
And specifically, I think we take a lot for granted as employers, as employees, everything around us, we take it for granted. It becomes wallpaper. All the latest benefits and rewards we offer, all of our competitive advantages that make us stand out in our sector as the best employer, as the best in class, all of these things really need to be redefined. So when we talk about USPs, and I've made some notes here because this is my little area of passion, as an employer, revisit who you are as an employer, what you stand for, what your culture is for your people. Talk about the stories, the good success stories. Bring all of that back to life. Get better at sharing magic moments. If someone's done something well, say, listen, well done. So-and-so's done that well. Revisit what your business objectives are, taking into consideration if you are going to be affected by the recession, saying, listen, we've got to adjust, but it's a micro adjustment, or it's a bigger adjustment, but this is where we are. Communicate, keep people ahead. And remember, so much of the drive of new employees when they choose a business is understanding your corporate social responsibility, your being good for the world, not just good in the world. What are you doing as an employer for equality and diversity, for sustainability, for social impact? All of that is stuff that you can talk about, which has nothing to do with the recession, but it makes people re-choose to work for you. And I think that's important to stabilize.
Have you read the book Good to Great by Jim Collins?
No, but you're going to tell me about it.
Yeah, and basically the book talks about what makes a difference between a good company and a great company. And one of the things he talks about in that book, Meeta, is about getting the right people on the bus. Yeah. When you get the right people on the bus, then you can really fly with that. And what that also means is it doesn't even matter the direction you choose to take the company. If you got the right people on the bus, it's still going to work anyway. So if you change your objectives, if you put your ladder on a different wall, whatever phrases I'm going to use here, it makes no difference. So what I'm going to suggest perhaps is a little unorthodox in the sense that everything you said is right, but make sure that they're right for you. Sometimes you've got to cut out the dead wood or the people, and it's difficult depending on the size of the organization and relationships and so forth. But if you're going to be looking at your business in the cold heart of daylight, maybe you have to make some ruthless decisions on who is it that's holding the team back. perhaps that, because we know what happens in those situations, we've all experienced it, when that person that's holding everyone back is out, everybody kind of lifts up again and everybody steps up. So what I'm saying is all the things you said are correct, but when we look at our guys, who's actually really making this work here? And in addition to that, what are the traits that they have that are making it work there? What is it that? Is it the way they speak? What is there the way that they think? Because those are the traits you should be then incorporating in your recruitment process to get more of those people on the bus. I'm not saying everybody has to be the same, because we will complement each other with different skill sets. But you know what I mean, right? That gets the people on the bus. That's the main right people on the bus.
So what you're saying essentially is do an audit. Look at your people, make sure that everyone aligns with who you are as an organization, what you stand for, behaviors, values, culture. And yes, recession is actually a very good reason for doing a bit of a sweep of people that don't fit. You know, it's probably the easiest time for an organization to say, listen, we've got to let some people go. But it's actually also a really good time for organizations to say, we've done it. We've had to let go of people on this basis. You don't need to talk about anything personal, but the overall strategy. But this actually strengthens our business and secures everyone's roles and the journey of the organization for the coming months and years until we're back on track. So again, communicate it. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
That's the key word there I was waiting for, Meeta. Communication. And you know what? That's our fault. It's our fault as business owners. Yeah. Is it the child's fault if we're parents that they're not getting it, or is it us to teach them? I'm not suggesting we're patronizing our people, but you see my point is very often leaders are very ineffective at communicating. You know, what is the actual vision? What are we doing here? I'm reading a book at the moment called The 1 Minute Manager. Have you heard of that? Yeah. And it basically talks about having a set of goals which somebody can review in 1 minute. Yeah. So they've got to be pretty precise. Simple. And this guy does it. There's lots of different tactics in there, but obviously what it means is absolute clarity on what's expected and what needs to happen and what needs to go forward. So if we apply that with all of our people, and guess what? If the page isn't the same, that's how you start to see it. Because what I realized also in the scheme of doing this for many years, you're definitely going to back me up on this, Meeta, is we think differently to employees. As there's a reason we're running businesses and leading them in this way, which means they don't see things through the same perspective, through the same lens as we do. Challenges, you know, it's even the language we use. We don't have problems. We've got challenges. How are we going to get around those things? It's about growth. It's about different way that we see things, which means that how do you get them to see it that way as well? So it's you know, just because they think differently doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just different. You know, one of my lawyers the other day said, Meeta said, I suggested a way of doing something, and they said, "Well, I don't think that doesn't really work with me. But you know, you're the boss." And I said, "No, don't pull the boss card. You've got to see it the way I see it, and then you've got to challenge me, because you might have a better way. That's the way it works." And then when we spoke to them, oh yeah, I got it now. So it was my communication that was essential to getting them aligned to whatever challenge we need to get over, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the area of defining your USPs as top employers, I think team events are really key. So if you are doing a change in the team, or you are, you know, having to let people go, or whatever your message is, build it around a team event. We're doing lunch and learns at the moment at the main group. So we're doing some coaching in that time. Do not scrimp and save on training. If you can't afford to go out and get training, find those experts in the organization. Don't have to do a half a day, do a 20-minute. Get somebody who's passionate about something and good at it. Yeah, and get them talking about it. And what I think is really key at this time is something which we're a small organization. We're not the biggest, but mentoring. And I think in any size of organization, and especially cross mentoring, where you can take someone from Gen X, which is like me, nearly 50, grew up in a time when, you know, first generation of both parents working, no technology, left to get on with it, versus Gen Z, who literally have a phone as a hand. Everyone can bring different skills and you know, we Gen Xers bring the resilience, Gen Zers bring, you know, the fast thinking solutions. And I think being able to cross pollinate on that is really good. So rather than sort of, you know, trenching in on your position, let's be open. Let's have a growth mindset. Let's establish that as a team and as an organization, we're only as good as the people sitting next to us. And actually not just sitting next to us, but sharing thoughts, ideas, you know, trying things, letting go of what doesn't work, keeping what does, and pushing forward. So just having that mindset of pushing on, I think.
You know, I'd like to add to that as well, Meeta, which is like, as leaders and as business owners, we've got to understand that our people are watching us. So it's a little bit like, if you're in a motorway, you can only go as fast as the car in front of you. So you're the car in front. So if you are not going 10 times what you're expecting them to do, how are they really expected to follow it? So if you're going to lead and do it properly and really show them the way. But again, it comes back to that effective communication, right? Understanding where we're trying to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. So really, when we talk about USPs as top employers and also adapting the business to current markets, Tosh, you and I look specifically at people and their impact on an organization and the organization's impact on the people, right? It's a two-way street, like anything, it's a two-way relationship. Every decision you make as an organization will impact your people. And one of the things that I think is really key is, no business is a democracy. There's always a hierarchy of decision making. But the more you can create little brainstorms, get people's ideas, and then when you pull those, so for example, thinking about what's going to happen in an organization during recession, what's the first thing companies do? They cut costs, right? Yeah. But rather than saying, right, I'm Big Brother and I'm getting rid of all of this, what about bringing people together and saying, look, we need to work smarter, we need to work more efficiently. What are your thoughts on how we can do that? I think people will really value being heard. I think it's very powerful when you say, you know what, these were ideas from the floor that, are going to help our business. And we really appreciate, one, that you understand the challenges of a business. We commit to you, to giving you, a business that is going to be robust and therefore here in the future. And we want to take on your ideas. I think that's very powerful. People feel empowered in that space.
Yeah, I mean, seek to understand before you seek to be understood. That's a phrase from the 7 Effective Habits, right? From Stephen Covey. And that's really such an important thing, because then you know what you're dealing with. What happens as leaders is we go in there and we just railroad everybody, and not on purpose. Right, I think we should do this, and we do that, and we do that, and they go, yep, let's do that. Not everybody will go, no, stop them, Mr. Employer. I think this is a better way. So why don't you listen to what it is that they have to say? But obviously there's got to be a direction. So the direction should be, I'm looking to achieve this.
Yeah.
Give me your ideas and then explore it. Now, the difficulty is when these things are done on a screen or in 1 hour. We've got 1 hour really to something that's going to make such a significant impact on your business. It doesn't have to be a day, but don't, maybe to cut out a morning, because you've got to allow some free time thinking. You realize no one's going to get straight to solutions. You're going to go there to get to here, so to speak. And you're going to talk about a lot of rubbish. And then out of the rubbish, there'll be some gems that will come out of it. Yeah, and that's what you want. 1, 2, 3 gems. That makes that 3 out. And then you hammer it. You absolutely go to town on it, but with a plan on what that means, depending on your business, right? How many calls you got to make, how many clients you got to go and see, how many podcasts you got to do, how many adverts you got to put out. It's creating that awareness and understanding of what it is that you need to really do, the 80-20 rule that will make the most impact for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say that, there's so much talent, the skills that businesses have gone after over the last 18 months, there's still such a skill shortage. So it's important for organizations to really hone the people who are already in their business. So do a reevaluation, go back in and ask people, what's your top 3 skills? What do you think makes you better at your job? Get them training each other. Of course, technical skills and accredited learning is something that has to requires an external trainer. But there can be soft skills like time management. That's one of the things that I think every business should look at in this time, is reevaluate everyone's time, because we all talk about cutting costs and saving money, but time is money. That's a phrase you never hear often. Time is money. So when you look at somebody's time, how can we help them work more efficiently? How can we help them to, cut the list down from, 100 things that look like a good idea to actually what's important now? What's going to make an impact now? And that's, I think, what you said, Tosh, about having that real focus. That's what it comes back to. What are our objectives as a business, as a team, and therefore as an individual? And I think everyone really needs that clarity, which then is noted, celebrated, magic moments mentioned. bonuses and pay rises are going to be scarce. We know the rate of inflation is ridiculous. People are going to feel the squeeze, but we also know that if you're looking at the Maslow's hierarchy of what motivates people, actually security and belonging can be up there before money. So people need a certain amount of money, absolutely, to be able to live and to have roof over the head, food on the table, the basics. But then the extra is really about job satisfaction, working with like-minded people, feeling valued, feeling like you're successful, and all of these things can be done without cost. So don't take it for granted that you're doing it well as a business. Make sure you have those conversations. And I think for me, Tosh, we don't actually know, because there's so many sides of this time. In the pandemic, everyone had got the same information, and whether you turned on the news, whether you were talking on the phone to your friends, whatever you were doing, the message was the same. But this recession, there's so many different conversations that we don't know what people are feeling. So let's ask, how are you feeling? Are you comfortable in what's going on? Tell me where you're at. Let's have those open conversations.
Everything you said is correct. It's really good. I feel like I'm getting commission on this, about this book I was telling you I was just reading. Because what you've said is pretty much in there, right? It talks about setting this 1 minute goals, right? So you can review it in 1 minute. That means you get that clear alignment. It talks about 1 minute appraisals. Okay, 1 minute. So not when it's in 3 months, every 6 months, 3 months. They're continually looking at appraisals of what they're doing right. They're looking to catch them where they go right, not where they go wrong. Right. And if there's something that goes wrong, the third thing it talks about in this book is a 1 minute redirect. It's not a criticism. So they've gone off course. We need a course correct now, don't we? Yeah. So because we know what the course correct is, because we've got our 1 minute goals. That's there's more frequency to it. It's shorter. You know what the number one problem with all business owners, managers is time. You just mentioned time management. So it keeps it focused. Obviously, there's going to be some heavy lifting in the first instance to get those things in place. To review something in 1 minute, appraise in 1 minute, and redirect in 1 minute. But with you get that level of clarity early on, or get that right with people on each project. It might be. It doesn't have to be just a new recruitment. Then you're very clearly aligned every aspect. And then also, guess what? It creates self-management. They know what they're doing. They can just get on with it. They know what you're looking for. So this is not something we just talk about. It's something you've got to really think about at a granular level. For me, it fascinates me. I love it, but to go through it is really important. Really important.
Yeah, we've actually got a comment from Joellen. Nice to see you back,
Joellen, after so long. Lovely to see you there.
So Joellen says she agrees with you 100%. She's asked everyone to keep a journal. Fantastic, where they keep a note of what's working well and where the pinch points are. They're having a team day in a couple of weeks where together everyone is going to look at everything to hone it down to what decisions need to be made. And we're looking for those gems. Brilliant. Thank you, Joellen. And great advice, Tosh. So there we have it.
It's ongoing, isn't it? It's never ending, consistent. What happens if a relationship's not working out? Should we sort it out in an hour? It takes time and consistent effort and an understanding and an alignment. The principles are always the same, Meeta, in my view, whether you took it in business or in your personal life. Those things, those work.
Yeah, and I think, we spoke about the time given to sessions like this, Joellen. You said you're spending, a day with your team running through this. Don't forget that this is on the business stuff. This isn't sort of doing the day job. This is looking at stuff that is getting in the way of the day job. If the day job is still fit for purpose, and actually dedicating that hour or dedicating that day will give you more hours back on the ground than what you spent in that room agreeing, actions to go forward on. So it's an investment.
Definitely. The problem is, as I say, is we decide. I say we, but I'm certainly guilty of it sometimes. Is you just prioritize. So are we prioritizing the constant day-to-day firefight, or are we going to actually prioritize the long-term strategy? The answer is both. So every single day, you've got to do something for that long-term strategy. Cut some time out, carve it out in your day, and then still do your firefighting stuff. But at least you're stepping towards the longer strategy. You're making notes there, yeah?
I'm making notes, yeah.
Write it down, post it to yourself. No, a joke. So if you actually strategize those things, you'll start to step towards that bigger, longer term strategy every single day. And it's the bigger strategy stuff that really floats your boat. So rather than, oh my gosh, there's this huge thing, right, everybody, let's get them all in a room. Right, we want alignment, we want this, we want that, right, off you go. Doesn't work.
It's breaking it down into chewable chunks. Actually, I made a note of the word journal because I think that in a business environment, it's really easy to get quite clinical. I'm guilty of saying, right, come back to me with what you think is working, come back to me with what you think isn't, we'll talk about it. But actually, Joellen, turning it into a journal, I think is a really powerful and clever approach, because then people actually also have a place to go and sort of decompress a little bit, and that is so powerful.
Is it a communal journal? Is that what she means?
Pardon?
Is it a journal everybody writes in? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I think
their own journals.
Yeah, I think what Joellen, I mean, again, I'm, taking this from her comment, but what I think Joellen is saying is to ask members of the team to just do some reflecting, every day, at the end of the day, or whenever is a good time, of what's gone well, what's getting in the way.
Really good idea. And I hadn't thought of that one before, because you get a real vibe of where people are at, the way they're thinking, what their frustrations are. It's very good if it's a communal one. I thought that they meant just writing, sort of mapping out their own process and their own journey. If it's what you think it is, I think that's great.
I think people will write their own, but then they'll be able to bring that together. But I think the point I'm trying to make on that is just the language, rather than making it a clinical.
I'm going to write it down now. I mean, you got me doing it now.
Rather than make it a clinical, we need to debrief on what's been going on in this, in the business over the last month. It's a case of what's the actual experience on the ground, and I think that is very powerful in terms of knowledge, and allows then senior leadership to direct the business in a way that's going to remove those barriers.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. I'm doing that, Joellen, today.
Yeah. So
I'm going to create that.
Feedback has been that everyone keeps her own.
Who's presenting this? Is it us or Joellen now?
Joellen's always,
isn't it? Who's running the show?
She's always in the room. I love it. So we're talking about adaptation. I think today's session has been really about, there's no revolution. There's no, going from black to white, white to black. As always, it's incremental adjustments in a direction that can be easily moved to support the organization and its people to get to a strategic objective that's going to benefit everyone, right? That's summing up what we're trying to do today. The challenge of the recession is it is changing every day. The challenges are changing every day. And probably for the first time in a long time, not only is it a business to business challenge, it's also a consumer challenge. People are feeling it at work and they're feeling it at home. So there's no real safe space. I'm getting excited. There's no real safe space for people to go to. So work has to become that safe space where people know what to expect. They know where they stand. There's an environment of open honesty and transparency. And I think employers shouldn't underestimate the power that an organization has in making people feel secure, valued, belonging, all of the things that I think are lacking a lot in the world at the moment.
I've had situations, Meeta, where they do not feel secure. Because the nature of the industry and the market sometimes isn't always buoyant. But what they do have is fulfillment. What they do have is that you've got each other's back. So this is not going to be a first resort. It's going to be a last resort if something happens. And if there is a last resort, they know it's coming. There's transparency, because that's how you look after people, isn't it? Because then they've got a line of sight to be able to make choices, and you help them with those choices. If in a worst case scenario. But what I'm saying in reality is when you've already got that loyalty and everybody's got their back kind of approach, and it's authentic and genuine, and that's obviously come through the course of time with your interactions with your people, not just hi, how's your day, but actually knowing who they are, what their pains are, what their frustrations are, that you either have that, you don't, that sort of interest. They will back you up. When times are hard, guess what? They're going to back you up, because they know it's been the other way around in the past, or they know that it would be if they haven't experienced that.
Yeah. Everyone has to have each other's backs, and we've got to be shoulder to shoulder on this, right? So I made some notes before the session just to get some, just wanted to make sure I got some of the points across that I've been reading about, hearing about from other organizations what they're doing. And, you know, for me and the team on the ground, our objective has been to really understand everyone's objectives and challenges as an organization. So hopefully we can bring some of the solutions to that out through our webinars. You know, so one of the things that actually was quite interesting was talking about, you know, collecting data. So Joellen, you've collected that from a personal perspective, from the front line of what everyone's going through. The other way you can look at it is understanding the power of your policies, what they actually say about you as an organization and how they support people and create a safe space. If you are letting people go, on what basis, being really clear on understanding what the outcomes are of the action you're taking. The productivity rate of your people. So if you can measure what the outcomes are and if you're on track, or if you need to, because the worst feeling in the world is doing the same thing and thinking you're going to get another outcome, right?
Yeah,
it's frustrating for people. And again, all different reasons why people leave their jobs. A lot of people leave their jobs because they didn't feel like they were winning, you know, but actually that might be because the employer hasn't directed them in the right space for this new business environment. And again, as I said, there may not be a lot of pay rises, there may not be a lot of bonuses, but you can do small, meaningful actions in the right direction. For example, you know, some businesses haven't done inflationary pay rises, but they've given cost of living bonuses. So again, something that allows the business to show that they're with their people, understanding what they're going through, but also allowing them to be able to afford to do that as well. So getting that right. So just really thinking about aligning the business goals with the financial position of the organization, with the facts on the ground of what people are going through and what's going to keep everyone aligned. And as you said, Tosh, you know, being on that boat together, getting everyone on the bus and making sure everyone's facing in the same direction and knows what their journey is going to be. I
don't know how we're traveling these days. No, you know, the other thing to really understand in terms of how people are feeling is, do you know what the number one reason people quit is?
Tell me.
And it's not pay. Come on, give me a guess.
I would say that they don't align with their boss, that they aren't valued.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Lack of appreciation. Yeah. Number one reason. I'm talking into the 70% levels. Yeah. Top reason, they didn't feel valued. They didn't feel appreciated in some way. It wasn't the lack of the pay rise, because you get that appreciation, you get that fulfillment. Yeah. So it all fits with what we're talking about here. It all fits. The trick is, as the company grows, how you maintain that. That's a whole other webinar and some. But right now, you can do it within your team. You can do it within your structure, depending how large you are, the organization is. Let them know what their worth is. We all want that. We all want that sense of self-worth in whatever we do, whether it's in work or at home or anything. Otherwise, what's it about?
Yeah, I think holistic leadership is key right now. And you said about it being a whole nother webinar. This webinar that we would do separately would be about how to get senior leadership aligned and leading by example, all speaking 100%. the same strategic objectives. And whoever's watching this, whether you're watching it live now or whether you've got a recording, send the recording to your manager, send the recording to the big boss, if that's a sensible and realistic conversation point, you know, as in if you've got that line of engagement, use it, put this in front of them. If they're like, oh, well, I don't have time to watch it all, give them the 3 salient points about what's important for us to be thinking about, because you know that your senior leadership will either have given you direction or everyone's, you know, out doing their own gunfight out in the Wild West. Do you know what I mean? So it's about putting it all together. And
you know what I mean? Today, they say a similar thing with I keep talking about family and personal things as well, I suppose. But as I say, the principles are the same. They say that, you know, it's not that children they may not hear you, they may not be listening to you, but they're always watching.
Yeah.
And that's also how they're learning. So understand that just saying something once doesn't land. They've got to see it, feel it, hear it, understand it in the core, you know, that it really means something to them as well. So that comes right back to what we were talking about at the beginning of this session, which was about getting the right people on the bus. And that comes really to your bag, the right recruitment process, finding out the traits that really fit and complement each other to reach where you want to get to. And remember, if you've got the right people on the bus, doesn't matter what the direction is.
Yeah.
So how do you get those best people? What is it that those people need to have to want to join your organization?
Yeah. And one of the
how do you get them?
conversations, yeah. And one of the conversations we're having at the moment with businesses where they haven't got the budget to hire more people, there's headcount freezes, is think about flexible working, think about temporaries, access to new skills. Temps are great at absorbing the culture of the environment that they're, that they're working for, whether it's a week or a month or 3 months. Plan ahead, think about what project deadlines you've got, think about the resource of employees you need, and think about what's missing, and think about different ways that you can then fulfill those gaps. Cheaper, more flexible. Great way of trying before you buy. Again, you might need a new role in your organization, but you're not really sure if it's going to work. Bring in a temp, get them to do elements of the job description, and then reflect on it and see what worked and what didn't. So there's always a solution, and that's, I think, where we love engaging, is understanding the people challenges, the resource challenges on the ground for businesses, what objectives they're trying to achieve, and what's getting in the way, and then finding solutions. And usually you get the right people doing the right thing, and it all starts to flow a bit better.
Yeah, and you're not on your own. I mean, pick up the phone to us. We all think the way we think, right? Nobody's got the one answers necessarily, but what often happens is the collaboration together of thinking about a situation makes 1 + 1 makes 3. You come up with a much greater outcome. So if you're struggling with something, this is not some, arm's length kind of webinar approach that we've ever taken. Pick up the phone. I don't know if the number goes out with this or something like that.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone to us. I'm not saying to, what's it going to cost? Nothing. Just pick up the phone, figure out what we can do, what can happen, and then you can take things from there, right? At least get the ideas, grill us, get it out of us, squeeze out that information, and see if there's a way that really helps. Genuinely, I'm suggesting that always.
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to make the recording of this session available to everyone who's signed up. We also put everything on YouTube if you want to watch it afterwards, and on Spotify if you want to listen while you're doing something else. And our contact details are on there as well. We're also on LinkedIn. So we're also, always putting thought pieces out there, putting details of our other webinars, which are, every Thursday at midday. So there's many ways to engage and to get free advice, but also really valuable advice from people who are at the rock face of the business community.
Yeah, spot on, Meeta, absolutely.
Well, Tosh, we're going to wind things up. It's 12:40, and as always, I could talk about this for hours, but we always want to make sure that there's a few succinct solutions that people can take away and apply straight away. But if there is more, then please give us a call. I love the follow-up conversations and really making sure that you got what you wanted out of today's session. But
quick thing before we go, Meeta.
Yes, give us the closing.
So what's the score on Monday? England versus Iran, eh?
Oh God!
What's your money on?
I'll think about that on Sunday.
All right, brilliant. Thank you so much, as always.
Always a pleasure, Tosh. And thanks to everyone for signing up and joining us today.
See ya. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.